Alexander Pierce strode through the gleaming corridors of Boston Memorial Hospital with the confident air of someone who owned the place. In many ways, he did. At 36, he was the youngest chief of neurosurgery in the hospital's history, with a reputation that attracted patients from across the country and a personal bank account that reflected his success. "Morning, Doctor." "Pierce," called a nurse, her voice tinged with that familiar mixture of respect and apprehension that Alex had grown accustomed to inspiring in his staff. He nodded curtly without breaking stride. Today was not a day for pleasantries. The NeuroMax deal had been in the works for months, a partnership that would bring cutting-edge surgical equipment to his department and, coincidentally, a seven-figure consulting fee to his personal account. The hospital boardroom was on the top floor, offering a panoramic view of the Boston skyline. The morning sun glinted off the Charles River, casting the city in a golden glow that seemed to affirm Alex's conviction that this was his moment, his triumph. Inside, the representatives from NeuroMax were already waiting. 3 men in expensive suits with artificial smiles. The hospital's legal team was there too, along with CEO Patricia Winters, who rose to greet him with an enthusiastic handshake. "Alex, perfect timing! We were just about to go through the final details." The meeting progressed exactly as Alex had anticipated. The NeuroMax representatives spoke of revolutionary advancements and unprecedented patient outcomes. And the hospital attorneys nodded along, occasionally interjecting with minor contractual clarifications. Patricia beamed at the prospect of the publicity this partnership would generate. None of them understood the technical specifications the way Alex did. None of them had spent 20 hours reviewing the preliminary data or comparing it with existing technologies. But that was why they needed him, his expertise, his reputation, his stamp of approval. When lunch was brought in, Alex excused himself to review a patient's scans. It was a habit of his, never appearing too eager, always maintaining the upper hand. He'd return in 30 minutes, sign the papers, and by evening he'd be celebrating with a 30-year-old Scotch in his penthouse apartment. As he walked down the corridor toward the elevator, his phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Don't forget dinner on Sunday. Bringing someone special to meet you." Alex rolled his eyes. His mother's attempts at matchmaking had become increasingly desperate since his younger sister had gotten married last year. He typed a non-committal response and pocketed his phone just as the elevator doors opened. Inside was a cleaning cart, and behind it a woman in the pale blue uniform of the hospital's housekeeping staff. She was small, 5'2" at most, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She looked up at him with large brown eyes that widened in recognition. "Going down, Dr. Pierce?" she asked, her voice carrying a slight accent that he couldn't quite place. "Yes," he replied, stepping into the elevator and pressing the button for the 4th floor. He stood as far from the cart as the confined space allowed, his attention on his phone. The elevator descended in silence for several floors before stopping at the 7th floor. As the doors opened, 2 nurses entered, chatting animatedly about weekend plans. It was then that Alex felt it. A light touch on his arm, so brief he almost thought he'd imagined it. The cleaning woman had shifted closer to him, and as he turned to look at her with irritation, she spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Don't sign that contract." Alex blinked, certain he had misheard. "Excuse me?" The woman held his gaze, her expression intensely serious. "The NeuroMax deal. Don't sign it. The equipment has defects they're hiding." The elevator stopped at the 4th floor, and the doors slid open. Alex stood frozen, staring at the woman who had just made such an outrageous claim. "This is your floor, Dr. Pierce," she said, her voice now perfectly professional, as if she hadn't just dropped a bombshell in his lap. Alex stepped out of the elevator mechanically, his mind racing. Who was this woman? How did she know about the NeuroMax deal? And what possible knowledge could a cleaner have about sophisticated neurosurgical equipment? The elevator doors began to close, and in a sudden impulse, Alex thrust his hand between them, causing them to reopen. The cleaning woman looked at him expectantly. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Rosa Mendez," she replied simply. "I clean the executive offices after hours. I've seen the reports they didn't show you." The doors tried to close again, and this time Alex let them. He stood in the corridor, the name Rosa Mendez echoing in his mind, along with her warning. His rational mind told him to dismiss it. What would a cleaning woman know about medical technology? She was probably confused or worse, trying to cause trouble. Yet something in her eyes, that certainty, that urgency, gave him pause. Alex found himself walking not toward the patient wing, but to his office. Once inside, he closed the door and sat at his computer. If there were issues with Neuromax equipment, there would be reports, studies, perhaps even lawsuits. It would take just a few minutes to check. An hour later, Alex sat back in his chair, his face pale. 3 separate research facilities had reported calibration issues with the Neuromax prototype. 2 surgeons in Europe had filed concerns about inconsistent results, and buried in a quarterly financial report was a mention of increased funding for product liability contingencies. None of this had been in the materials provided to him or the hospital. The information existed, but required digging through scientific journals, foreign medical boards, and financial statements that most doctors would never think to examine. His phone rang. Patricia Winters. "Alex, are you coming back up? Everyone's waiting." He cleared his throat. "Actually, Patricia, I've just received some concerning information about Neuromax. I think we need to postpone the signing until we can conduct a more thorough review." There was a long pause on the other end. "What kind of concerning information?" Patricia's voice had lost its warmth. "Technical issues, performance inconsistencies. I'm sending you the links now. I think our legal team should review them before we proceed." Another pause. "Where did you get this information?" Alex hesitated. "Let's just say it came from an unexpected source, but it checks out. Trust me on this, Patricia." After hanging up, Alex sat motionless, staring at his computer screen. The hospital stood to gain millions from this deal. His own consulting fee was substantial enough to fund his planned sabbatical next year. And he had just thrown a wrench into all of it because a cleaning woman had whispered a warning. He needed to talk to her again. Finding Rosa Mendez proved more challenging than Alex had anticipated. The housekeeping department was located in the basement of the hospital, a part of the building he had never visited in his 6 years of employment. The supervisor, a harried-looking woman named Gloria, eyed him suspiciously when he asked about Rosa. "Is there a problem with her work, Dr. Pierce?" Gloria asked, her defensive tone suggesting that doctors didn't typically seek out cleaning staff for positive reasons. "No, not at all. I just need to speak with her about something she may have observed." Gloria's expression remained skeptical, but she checked the schedule. "Rosa's on the cancer ward today. 5th floor, East Wing." Alex thanked her and headed to the elevator, feeling distinctly out of place. His tailored suit and polished shoes marked him as an alien in this utilitarian basement world of supply closets and break rooms furnished with mismatched chairs. On the 5th floor, he spotted Rosa almost immediately. She was emptying trash bins in the corridor, moving with efficient grace. When she saw him approaching, she straightened, her expression guarded. "Dr. Pierce," she acknowledged with a slight nod. "Ms. Mendez, I need to speak with you." He glanced around at the busy corridor. Privately, she hesitated, then gestured to a small conference room nearby. "This room is empty until 3 o'clock. Inside, Alex closed the door and turned to face her. Up close and in better light, he noticed details he had missed in the elevator. The intelligence in her eyes, the determined set of her jaw, the weariness etched in the slight shadows beneath her eyes. "You were right about Neuromax," he said without preamble. "There are issues with their equipment that weren't disclosed to us. What I want to know is how you knew." Rosa leaned against the conference table, crossing her arms. I clean the executive offices after hours. People leave things on their desks, on their computer screens. I see things. You read confidential documents. Alex raised an eyebrow. I read what's left in plain sight, she corrected, and I understand what I read. And how would a cleaning woman understand technical specifications for neurosurgical equipment? A flash of annoyance crossed her face. I'm in my second year of law school night program. Before that, I was pre-med for 3 years before I had to drop out. I understand enough. Alex stared at her, recalibrating his assumptions. Why did you warn me? Why not go to hospital administration? Rosa gave a short, humorless laugh. Would they have listened to me? Would you have listened if I hadn't caught you alone? She had a point. Alex ran a hand through his dark hair, a rare gesture of uncertainty for him. The CEO is furious. The deal's on hold pending review, but there's a lot of money at stake. There are patients' lives at stake, Rosa countered. Isn't that more important? The simplicity of her statement hit him like a physical force. Of course it was more important. That was the oath he had taken, the principle that was supposed to guide every decision. When had spreadsheets and consulting fees begun to overshadow that? Yes, he said quietly. Yes, it is. Rosa nodded, satisfied. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to finish. She moved toward the door. Wait, Alex said, surprising himself as much as her. I need your help. Rosa turned back, her expression quizzical. You found information that our entire legal team missed or chose to ignore. I need to know what else you've seen, what else you know. Why would I help you? So you can get your consulting fee from a different company? The accusation stung, particularly because just hours ago it might have been true. No, so I can protect my patients and clean up whatever's going on in this hospital. Rosa studied him for a long moment, as if weighing his sincerity. I get off at 6, she finally said. There's a coffee shop across the street. Bluebird Cafe. I'll meet you there at 6:30. Alex nodded. Thank you. As Rosa left, Alex remained in the conference room, processing the morning's events. His phone buzzed repeatedly, messages from Patricia, from the legal team, from the Neuromax representatives, all demanding explanations, justifications. For the first time in years, Alex found himself questioning the path he had been on. The prestige, the wealth, the influence, they had become his measure of success. But somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of why he had become a doctor in the first place, and it had taken a cleaning woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind to remind him. At 6:25, Alex entered the Bluebird Cafe, a cozy establishment that bore no resemblance to the sleek, overpriced coffee shops he typically frequented. The mismatched furniture and local artwork created an atmosphere of casual warmth that was both foreign and oddly comforting. Rosa was already there, seated at a corner table with 2 mugs. She had changed out of her work uniform into jeans and a simple red sweater, her dark hair now loose around her shoulders. The transformation was striking. Without the institutional uniform, she carried herself differently, with a quiet confidence. As Alex approached, she pushed one of the mugs toward him. Black coffee. You strike me as a black coffee person. Alex smiled slightly as he sat down. You're observant. It's a useful skill when you're invisible to most people. The comment wasn't delivered with bitterness, just matter-of-fact acknowledgement, but it made Alex uncomfortably aware of his own behavior. How many times had he walked past cleaning staff without so much as a nod of recognition? About this morning, he began, I owe you my gratitude. You prevented what could have been a serious mistake. Rosa took a sip of her coffee, regarding him over the rim of her mug. So what happens now with Neuromax? The contract signing has been postponed indefinitely. Our legal team is reviewing the information I found, the information you pointed me toward. There will be questions about how I came across it so suddenly. And what will you tell them? Alex hesitated. I'm not sure yet. The truth seems complicated. The truth usually is. Rosa set her mug down. But I didn't come here to discuss hospital politics. You said you needed my help. What did you mean by that? If the Neuromax situation is any indication, there may be other issues at Boston Memorial that have been overlooked. Your position gives you access and perspective that I don't have. You want me to be your informant? Rosa raised an eyebrow. Spy on executives for you? Not spy, Alex clarified quickly. Just keep your eyes open. Let me know if you see anything concerning. Rosa leaned back in her chair, studying him with those perceptive brown eyes. Why should I trust you, Dr. Pierce? How do I know you won't just use whatever I tell you for your own advantage? It was a fair question, and one Alex wasn't entirely sure he could answer. His reputation within the hospital was well established, brilliant but cold, ambitious to a fault. Why should this woman, who had known him for less than a day, believe he had her interests or anyone's interest but his own at heart? You don't know, he admitted. You have no reason to trust me. But today, when you told me about Neuromax, I did the right thing. That has to count for something. Rosa nodded slowly. It does, but I need something more. Name it. Why did you become a doctor? The question caught Alex off guard. It had been years since anyone had asked him that, years since he had even thought about it. My father died of a brain aneurysm when I was 12. He said after a moment. It was sudden. He was there one day, gone the next. The doctors couldn't save him. I decided then that I would learn how to save people like him. The admission felt raw, vulnerable in a way that Alex rarely allowed himself to be. He hadn't spoken of his father's death in years, had compartmentalized it so effectively that sometimes he could almost forget the crushing grief that had shaped his adolescence. Rosa's expression softened. I'm sorry about your father. It was a long time ago. Some things stay with us, no matter how much time passes. Rosa twisted her coffee mug in her hands, a gesture that suggested she spoke from experience. I'll help you, Dr. Pierce, but we do this as equals. No more cleaning woman comments. Alex felt a flush of embarrassment at having his earlier words thrown back at him. Agreed, and please call me Alex. Alex, she repeated, as if testing the name. I'm Rosa, but you already know that. What made you warn me, Rosa? You could have ignored what you saw. It wasn't your responsibility. Maybe not, but I believe we're all responsible for doing the right thing when we can. She shrugged. Besides, I've seen what happens when bad medical equipment gets approved. My cousin was part of a clinical trial that went wrong. The company knew there were risks they hadn't disclosed. Understanding dawned on Alex. That's why you were pre-med, Rosa nodded. I wanted to change things from the inside, make medicine better, safer, but life had other plans. What happened? My mother got sick. Medical bills piled up. I needed to work full-time, so law school became the more practical option. Nights and weekends, slower progress, but still moving forward. Alex was struck by her resilience, her determination. While he had followed a straight path to success, cleared of obstacles by privilege and opportunity, Rosa had navigated a far more challenging route and was still fighting to reach her goals. I admire that, he said quietly. Your perseverance. Rosa looked surprised, then slightly suspicious, as if searching for condescension in his words. Finding none, she offered a small smile. Thank you. They spent the next hour discussing the hospital, its politics, its blind spots, its potential vulnerabilities. Rosa's observations were astute, informed by both her education and her unique position within the institution. She moved between worlds, invisible to most, but seeing everything. As the cafe began to close, they gathered their things and stepped outside into the cool evening air. The hospital loomed across the street, its windows illuminated against the darkening sky. Same time next week? Alex suggested, surprising himself with his eagerness to continue their conversation. Rosa hesitated, then nodded. Same time, same place. But Alex, yes. If this is some kind of game to you, or if you're using me to advance your own agenda, I'll walk away, and I'll take what I know to someone who will listen. The warning was delivered calmly, but with unmistakable resolve. Alex found himself respecting her all the more for it. It's not a game, he assured her. And the only agenda I have is making sure that hospital lives up to what it should be. Rosa studied him for a moment longer, then nodded. Good night, Dr. Pierce. Good night, Rosa. As he watched her walk toward the subway station, Alex was struck by the strangeness of the day's events. This morning, he had been on the verge of signing a lucrative deal, secure in his position and his path. Now, that deal was in shambles, his reputation potentially at risk, and he had just agreed to an unorthodox partnership with a hospital cleaner who saw through his carefully constructed facade. And somehow, for the first time in longer than he could remember, it felt like he might be heading in the right direction. His phone buzzed. Patricia Winters again. No doubt demanding another explanation, another justification for his actions. Alex silenced the call and continued walking to his car. Tomorrow would bring consequences, questions, perhaps even threats to his position. But tonight, he would sleep better than he had in years, because today he had remembered why he became a doctor. 2 weeks after their first meeting at Bluebird Cafe, Alex found himself checking his watch with increasing frequency as 6 o'clock approached. Their weekly coffee meetings had quickly become a fixture in his calendar, one he anticipated more than he cared to admit. The fallout from the Neuromax situation had been substantial. Patricia Winters had been furious, the board concerned, and the Neuromax representatives threatening legal action for breach of contract. But when the independent review confirmed the equipment defects, the narrative had shifted dramatically. Suddenly, Alex was being praised for his diligence, his commitment to patient safety. Only he knew the truth, that without Rosa's warning, he would have signed that contract without a second thought. "Dr. Pierce, your 4 o'clock is ready," his assistant announced, interrupting his thoughts. The afternoon proceeded with its usual efficiency, consultations, reviews, a brief surgical consult. But throughout, part of Alex's mind remained on the approaching evening and the conversation to come. At 6:15, he entered the Bluebird Cafe to find Rosa already at their usual corner table, textbooks spread before her. "Studying?" he asked as he sat down. Rosa looked up, pushing a mug of black coffee toward him. "Contract law. Fascinating stuff, if you enjoy reading the same paragraph 7 times and still not understanding it." Alex smiled. In their brief acquaintance, he'd discovered that Rosa's dry humor was one of her many unexpected qualities. "How was your week?" he asked, settling into what had become a comfortable routine. "Interesting, actually." Rosa closed her textbook. "I was cleaning the pharmacy director's office when I noticed some unusual inventory reports." Alex leaned forward. "Unusual how?" "Discrepancies between ordered quantities and received quantities for certain medications. Small enough to go unnoticed in routine audits, but consistent across several months." "Which medications?" "Primarily opioids and benzodiazepines." Rosa's expression was serious. "Someone could be diverting drugs from the hospital supply." Alex frowned. Drug diversion was a serious issue, one that could endanger patients and expose the hospital to significant liability. "I need to see those reports," he said decisively. Rosa raised an eyebrow. "And how do you propose to explain how you got them? You can't exactly say your cleaning lady friend found them while emptying the trash." "Friend." The word hung between them, new and undefined. Were they friends? Their relationship had begun as a strange alliance of necessity, but it had evolved into something else, something Alex couldn't quite categorize. "You're right," he conceded. "I'll need to find another way to investigate this." Their conversation shifted to brainstorming approaches, strategies that would address the issue without exposing Rosa's role. Throughout, Alex was struck by her quick mind, her ethical clarity, and the way she saw connections that others missed. As they prepared to leave, Rosa hesitated. "I have a favor to ask." "Of course," Alex replied, surprising himself with his immediate willingness. "My cousin Elena, the one who was in that clinical trial, she's having neurological symptoms again. The local hospital says it's nothing to worry about, but..." Rosa's confident demeanor faltered, revealing genuine fear beneath. "You're concerned," Alex finished for her. Rosa nodded. "She doesn't have insurance, and specialist consultations are expensive. I was wondering if you might be willing to look at her case, give a second opinion." The request was unexpected, but not unwelcome. "Have her come to my office tomorrow. Last appointment of the day." Relief flooded Rosa's face. "Thank you, Alex. This means a lot to me." "It's what doctors are supposed to do," he said simply. Walking back to his car, Alex realized that for the first time in years, he was acting like the doctor he had once aspired to be, not for recognition or advancement, but because it was right. Elena Mendez arrived at his office the following evening, a young woman with Rosa's same intelligent eyes, but a fragility that spoke of chronic illness. Alex conducted a thorough examination, reviewed her history, and ordered comprehensive tests under his own name. 2 days later, he had a diagnosis, a rare complication from the experimental drug she had received years earlier. It was treatable, but required specialized care. "I can refer her to a colleague at Massachusetts General," Alex told Rosa at their next meeting. "He owes me a favor and won't ask questions about insurance." Rosa's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already have," Alex said quietly. "You reminded me of something I'd forgotten." Their eyes met across the table, and Alex felt something shift between them, a deepening of trust, of understanding. The pharmacy investigation proceeded carefully. Alex cultivated a friendship with the head pharmacist, casually raised concerns about inventory controls, and eventually gained access to the reports Rosa had mentioned. The evidence was damning. Someone in a position of authority was systematically diverting medications, potentially for sale on the black market. When Alex presented his findings to the hospital's compliance officer, the response was swift. Security cameras were installed, documentation procedures tightened, and within weeks, the culprit was identified. Not a nurse or technician, as initially suspected, but the pharmacy director himself. The scandal was contained, handled discreetly to protect the hospital's reputation, but the message was clear. Someone was watching. Someone cared about integrity. "You've made quite an impression on the board," Patricia Winters remarked during a leadership meeting. "First Neuromax, now this pharmacy situation. They're calling you the hospital's moral compass." Alex merely nodded, accepting the praise while knowing it wasn't truly his to claim. That evening, he recounted the conversation to Rosa, who laughed outright. "The moral compass? If they only knew." "It should be you getting the credit," Alex admitted. "You're the one finding these issues." Rosa shrugged. "I don't need credit, I just want things fixed." As autumn deepened into winter, their weekly meetings expanded to twice weekly, then to dinner occasionally. They developed a rhythm, a partnership that crossed professional and social boundaries. Alex found himself sharing thoughts he'd never voiced to anyone, doubts about his career path, memories of his father, frustrations with the healthcare system. Rosa listened without judgment, offering insights shaped by her different perspective. In turn, she spoke of her struggles as an immigrant's daughter, her determination to finish law school despite the obstacles, her love for her family. One evening, as they walked through the snow-covered park near the hospital, Alex realized with startling clarity that Rosa had become essential to him, not just as an ally in improving the hospital, but as a person whose presence he valued, whose opinion he respected, whose company he craved. The realization was both exhilarating and terrifying. Alex Pierce, who had built his life around professional achievement and emotional detachment, was developing feelings for a woman who challenged everything he thought he wanted. "You're quiet tonight," Rosa observed, her breath forming clouds in the cold air. "Just thinking," Alex replied, unsure how to articulate the transformation occurring within him. "Dangerous habit," she teased, her smile illuminated by the park lamps. Alex laughed, the sound surprising him with its genuineness. When had he last laughed like that, without calculation or restraint? As they reached the park exit, Rosa stopped suddenly. I've been offered a legal internship. That's wonderful, Alex said automatically before registering her serious expression. Isn't it? It's with Chandler and Associates. They specialize in medical malpractice. The implications were immediate and concerning. Chandler and Associates was one of the most aggressive malpractice firms in Massachusetts, notorious for targeting hospitals like Boston Memorial. I see, Alex said carefully. It's an incredible opportunity, Rosa continued. Paid internship, potential job offer after graduation, experience that would be directly relevant to my interests. But, Rosa met his gaze directly, but I'd be working for a firm that might one day be adverse to your hospital, to you. The fact that she recognized this conflict, that she was raising it proactively, only increased Alex's respect for her. You should take it, he said firmly. Rosa blinked, clearly surprised. You don't think it would be a problem? I think you'd be an exceptional lawyer, and any firm would be lucky to have you. Alex hesitated, then added, Our friendship exists outside of our professional roles. At least it does for me. Something flickered in Rosa's eyes, relief perhaps, or something deeper. For me, too. They stood there in the snow, the moment charged with unspoken possibilities. I should get home, Rosa finally said. Early shift tomorrow. I'll walk you to the subway. As they approached the station, Alex found himself reluctant to end the evening. Rosa, His phone rang, the hospital emergency line. Alex answered immediately, listening intently as the trauma surgeon on call described a car accident victim with a severe head injury. I'll be there in 15 minutes, he said, ending the call. I have to go. Rosa nodded in understanding. Go, save lives. That's what you do. On impulse, Alex leaned down and kissed her cheek. We'll continue this conversation later. The surprise in her eyes was the last thing he saw before turning to hail a cab, his heart racing from more than just the medical emergency awaiting him. Hours later, emerging from successful surgery, exhausted but satisfied, Alex found himself thinking not of the professional triumph, but of Rosa's smile, of conversations yet to be had, of possibilities that had never before seemed important or even desirable. Something fundamental had changed in his life, and for once, Alexander Pierce, who had always controlled every variable, planned every step, was entirely unsure what would happen next, and strangely, he was okay with that. Spring brought change to Boston. Melting snow, budding trees, and a shifting dynamic between Alex and Rosa. Their relationship existed in a delicate balance, neither purely professional nor openly romantic, but evolving in ways that left both uncertain of boundaries. Rosa's internship at Chandler and Associates was proving both challenging and rewarding. Her legal education was accelerating through practical experience, and her supervisors frequently praised her insight into medical procedures, knowledge gleaned from years of pre-med studies and countless conversations with Alex. For his part, Alex found himself increasingly distracted. Surgical procedures that once commanded his complete focus now shared mental space with thoughts of Rosa, her laugh, her perspective, the way she challenged him to be better. You seem different lately, remarked Dr. Sarah Chen, a fellow surgeon, as they scrubbed out after a complicated procedure. Less what? Alex prompted when she hesitated. Less robotic, Sarah said bluntly. It's refreshing. Alex wasn't sure how to respond. He had cultivated his clinical demeanor deliberately, believing emotion had no place in surgery. Now he wondered if that philosophy had seeped too far into his personal life. Their coffee meetings continued, though less regularly, as their schedules grew more demanding. Each encounter felt charged with unspoken tension, hands that lingered when passing coffee, gazes that held a moment too long, conversations that danced around personal feelings rather than hospital politics. One evening, as cherry blossoms floated through the air outside Bluebird Cafe, Rosa arrived, looking troubled. "What's wrong?" Alex asked immediately. Rosa hesitated. "I've been assigned to review potential cases against Boston Memorial." The statement hung between them, its implications clear. "That was bound to happen eventually," Alex said carefully. "It's your job. And if I find something serious—" Rosa's eyes searched his. "What then?" "Then you do what's right." Alex reached across the table to cover her hand with his. "That's who you are, Rosa. It's why I—" He stopped abruptly. "Why you what?" Rosa asked softly. The cafe door opened, admitting a group of laughing medical students. The moment shattered. "Why I respect you," Alex finished, withdrawing his hand. Rosa nodded, though disappointment flickered across her face. "There's a case I'm reviewing. A patient who developed complications after neurosurgery 6 months ago." Alex tensed. "One of my patients?" "No, Dr. Hoffman's." She named one of Alex's colleagues, a capable surgeon with occasionally questionable judgment. "But the case raises concerns about departmental protocols. Protocols you oversee as department head." "I see." Alex's voice grew cooler, professional barriers reinstating themselves. "And you're telling me this because?" "Because I value our friendship," Rosa said simply. "And I wanted you to hear it from me first." The word friendship felt insufficient for what had developed between them, yet neither seemed ready to define it as more. "Thank you for the warning," Alex said formally. They parted that evening with unusual awkwardness, the easy rapport of recent months temporarily displaced by professional realities. The following weeks brought increased tension. The malpractice case progressed, with Rosa's firm filing formal requests for hospital records. Alex found himself in lengthy meetings with legal counsel, reviewing protocols and procedures that might come under scrutiny. Their coffee meetings dwindled. Text messages grew shorter, more practical. The warmth between them cooled not from lack of feeling, but from conflicting loyalties. Then came the fundraising gala, Boston Memorial's annual event, to attract donors for the new cardiac wing. As department head, Alex's attendance was mandatory. He arrived in his tuxedo, prepared for an evening of strategic mingling and carefully calibrated charm. What he wasn't prepared for was the sight of Rosa entering the ballroom in a deep blue gown, her dark hair swept up to reveal the elegant line of her neck. "What are you doing here?" he asked, when he finally made his way to her side. "My firm bought a table," Rosa explained, "keeping tabs on potential clients." The cynical comment was belied by her nervous smile. "You look nice in a tux." "You look—" Alex searched for an adequate word and failed. "Incredible." A flush colored her cheeks. "Thank you." Before they could continue, Patricia Winters appeared, eyeing Rosa with curiosity. "Dr. Pierce, won't you introduce me to your friend?" The introduction was awkward. Rosa identified herself as a law student and intern, carefully omitting her cleaning position at the hospital and her firm's name. Patricia, ever the skilled networker, asked appropriate questions before moving on to other guests. "Would you like to dance?" Alex asked impulsively as the orchestra began a waltz. Rosa hesitated. "Is that wise? People will talk." "Let them," Alex replied, surprising himself with his disregard for hospital politics that had once seemed so important. On the dance floor, with Rosa in his arms, the professional complications fell away. They moved together with unexpected grace, as if their months of conversation had created a physical harmony to match their intellectual one. "I've missed you," Alex admitted quietly. "I've missed you too," Rosa replied. "This case, it's coming between us. Only if we let it." The music ended, but they remained close, reluctant to break the connection. "Dr. Pierce," came a voice from behind him, "a moment of your time." It was Sebastian Wells, the hospital's largest donor, an elderly man with strong opinions and stronger influence. Alex had no choice but to excuse himself, leaving Rosa standing alone on the edge of the dance floor. Throughout the evening, their eyes found each other across the room, brief connections amid separate obligations. When Alex finally extricated himself from a tedious conversation about golf memberships, he searched for Rosa, only to find she had departed. Outside, the spring night was cool and fragrant. Alex loosened his bow tie, drawing a deep breath of relief to be free of the suffocating social obligations. "Escaping?" came Rosa's voice from the shadows of the garden terrace. Alex turned to find her seated on a stone bench, her blue gown shimmering in the moonlight. "Needed some air," he said, joining her. "You?" "Same," she smiled. "Those events are exhausting. Yet you navigate them beautifully," Alex observed. "You fit into any world you enter." Rosa laughed softly. "I've had practice. When you grow up straddling cultures, you learn to adapt." They sat in comfortable silence, the muffled sounds of the gala floating through the night air. "The malpractice case," Alex finally said. "How serious is it?" Rosa considered before answering. "Serious enough. There were mistakes made, Alex, preventable ones." He nodded, appreciating her honesty even as it concerned him professionally. "And your firm will pursue it?" "Yes, but—" Rosa turned to face him fully. "I've recused myself from direct involvement. I told my supervisor I had a potential conflict of interest." The admission stunned him. "You did that for me?" "I did it for us," Rosa corrected, "whatever us means." The question hung between them, demanding an answer neither had been brave enough to articulate. Alex reached for her hand, interlacing their fingers. "I think us means I care about you in ways that go far beyond professional respect or even friendship. I think about you constantly. I measure my decisions by what you would think of them. You've changed me, Rosa." Her eyes widened at his candor. "Alex, but I don't know if this us is possible," he continued. "Our worlds are so different. The hospital board would have concerns about me dating someone who cleans their offices. Your law firm would question your involvement with a doctor from a hospital they're suing. And those are just the professional complications." "Are you saying this before it begins?" Rosa asked, hurt evident in her voice. "No." Alex's response was immediate, certain. "I'm saying I see the obstacles, but for the first time in my life, I want something enough to fight for it anyway." Rosa's expression softened. "I see the obstacles too. I've been seeing them since that first day in the elevator, when I decided to warn you about Neuromax. But I also see you, Alex. The real you, not the ambitious surgeon everyone else sees." Alex lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her palm. "And I see you, Rosa Mendez, the brilliant principled woman who works harder than anyone I've ever known." The distance between them disappeared as Alex leaned forward, capturing her lips in a kiss that felt like both a beginning and an inevitability. Rosa responded immediately, her free hand coming up to rest against his cheek. When they broke apart, breathless, the world seemed simultaneously more complicated and simpler than before. "So," Rosa said with a small smile, "what happens now?" "Now," Alex replied, "we figure it out together, day by day." The sound of the ballroom doors opening interrupted the moment. Guests were beginning to depart, spilling out onto the terrace. "I should go," Rosa said reluctantly, standing and smoothing her gown. "Early class tomorrow." Alex rose with her. "I'll drive you home. People will see us leaving together." "Good," Alex said simply. As they walked toward the parking area, Alex felt lighter than he had in years, despite the uncertainties ahead. They had crossed a line tonight, one that would bring challenges neither could fully anticipate. But for the first time in his meticulously planned life, Alexander Pierce was embracing the unknown. Because whatever complications lay ahead, they were worth facing for the chance to discover what he and Rosa could become together. Summer in Boston brought sweltering heat, crowded emergency rooms, and a relationship that blossomed despite its complications. Alex and Rosa moved cautiously at first, their dates hidden in quiet restaurants far from the hospital, their affection expressed in private moments rather than public displays. "This is ridiculous," Alex complained one evening as they sat in a dimly lit corner of a suburban Italian restaurant. "I feel like we're having an illicit affair rather than a relationship." Rosa smiled over her glass of wine. "Aren't we? The respected neurosurgeon and the cleaning woman law student. It sounds like the plot of a ridiculous movie. When you put it that way, Alex laughed, but the humor didn't reach his eyes. I don't like hiding this, hiding us. Neither do I, Rosa admitted. But the timing is complicated. My firm is still pursuing that case against the hospital, and I'm still working there 3 nights a week to pay for school. The practical obstacles remained significant. Rosa's position at the hospital could be jeopardized if their relationship became known. Alex's judgment might be questioned by the board. And Chandler and Associates would certainly have concerns about one of their interns dating a high-ranking doctor at a hospital they were actively suing. Yet despite these challenges, their connection deepened. Alex found himself sharing parts of himself he had always kept carefully guarded: childhood insecurities, professional doubts, dreams he had abandoned in pursuit of prestige. Rosa spoke of her family's struggles as immigrants, her determination to succeed not just for herself, but for her mother, who had sacrificed so much, her fear that she was attempting the impossible in pursuing law while working full-time. "You make me brave," she told him one night as they lay tangled together in the sheets of his penthouse apartment. "Before you, I kept my head down, did my work, didn't make waves." Alex traced the curve of her shoulder with his fingertips. "That's not how I remember it. You warned a complete stranger about a corrupt deal. That took courage. That was different. It was the right thing to do." "And this?" Alex asked softly. "Us? Is this the right thing?" Rosa rolled to face him, her expression serious in the moonlight filtering through the windows. "It feels right, even when it's complicated." Their relationship existed in 2 realms: the private world they created together and the public world that remained unaware. In private, they discovered each other's habits, preferences, insecurities. Alex learned that Rosa sang while cooking, that she couldn't sleep without a fan running, that she kept a journal of quotes that inspired her. Rosa discovered Alex's unexpected love of classic films, his inability to fold laundry properly, his habit of working through problems by talking them out while pacing. In public, they maintained their separate lives. Alex, the respected surgeon; Rosa, the promising law student and diligent hospital employee. The compartmentalization was manageable, if not ideal, until it wasn't. The hospital's annual department head review coincided with a heat wave that left everyone irritable and on edge. Alex sat in the boardroom, answering questions about budgets and staffing with practiced ease, his mind partly on the dinner he had planned with Rosa that evening. "And finally," Patricia Winters said, shuffling her papers, "there's the matter of your personal conduct." Alex stiffened. "My personal conduct." Patricia looked uncomfortable, but determined. "It's been brought to our attention that you're involved in a relationship with a member of the hospital staff. A cleaner, specifically." The room fell silent. Alex felt a rush of anger, not at the revelation itself, but at the tone, the implication. "Is there a hospital policy prohibiting relationships between staff members?" he asked coolly. "No," Patricia admitted, "but there are concerns about the appropriateness of such a relationship, the potential for perceived favoritism or, frankly, exploitation given the power differential." Alex's jaw tightened. "Rosa Mendez is a second-year law student at Boston University who works here part-time to pay her tuition. She's intelligent, ethical, and entirely capable of making her own decisions. Suggesting otherwise is both condescending and borderline offensive." The board members exchanged glances, clearly surprised by his vehemence. "No one is questioning Ms. Mendez's capabilities," Patricia said carefully. "But surely you understand how this might appear." "How what might appear? That I'm dating someone who doesn't have an MD after her name?" Alex leaned forward. "If that's the concern, I suggest we examine our institutional biases rather than my personal choices." The tension in the room was palpable. Alex had always been a valuable asset to the hospital, brilliant, dedicated, and politically savvy. His current defiance was unexpected and potentially problematic. "Perhaps we should table this discussion," suggested Dr. Harrison, an older board member who had always been supportive of Alex. "Dr. Pierce's personal life is his own business unless it affects his professional performance, and I see no evidence of that." Patricia reluctantly agreed, but the damage was done. As Alex left the boardroom, he knew rumors would spread quickly. Rosa would face scrutiny and possibly hostility from co-workers who might assume she was using the relationship for advancement. He called her immediately, explaining what had happened. "I'm so sorry," he said, pacing his office. "I should have been more discreet." "It's not your fault," Rosa replied, though her voice betrayed her concern. "We knew this might happen eventually. I'll speak to HR, make it clear that you're not to be treated differently." "That might make it worse," Rosa pointed out. "Special protection from the boyfriend? Not exactly what I need right now." She was right, of course. Any intervention from him would only reinforce the power imbalance others perceived. That evening, as they sat in his apartment rather than the restaurant they had planned to visit, the reality of their situation hung heavy between them. "Maybe I should quit," Rosa suggested, pushing her takeout container aside. "Find another job." "No," Alex said firmly. "You shouldn't have to disrupt your life because people are gossiping." "It's not just gossip, Alex. There are practical considerations. People I work with now look at me differently. Some assume I'm using you for advancement. Others think you're taking advantage of me." The injustice of it burned in Alex's chest. Their relationship, which felt so genuine and equal in private, was being distorted by external perceptions. "What if I transfer to a different hospital?" he suggested suddenly. "Massachusetts General has been trying to recruit me for years." Rosa stared at him in shock. "You would do that? Leave a position you've worked your entire career to achieve?" Alex realized with some surprise that he meant it. "Boston Memorial is just a building. My work, the patients, the research, that could continue anywhere." Rosa moved to sit beside him on the couch, taking his hand. "I can't let you do that. Not for me. Not just for you. For us. For what we could be together without all these complications." The simplicity of his statement belied the magnitude of what he was proposing, restructuring his entire professional life to make space for them to exist together openly. Rosa's eyes glistened. "No one has ever—" She swallowed hard. "No one has ever put me first like that." "Get used to it," Alex said softly, drawing her closer. Their kiss was tender, a silent acknowledgement of the shifting priorities in both their lives. The following weeks brought challenges neither had anticipated. Rosa faced cold shoulders from some hospital staff and overly friendly overtures from others seeking gossip or favors. Alex encountered subtle questions about his judgment, veiled suggestions that his relationship was affecting his focus. Yet for every difficult moment, there were unexpected allies. Dr. Chen defended Alex fiercely in department meetings. Gloria from housekeeping made it clear that anyone harassing Rosa would answer to her. And Elena, Rosa's cousin who Alex had diagnosed and helped treat, brought homemade empanadas to his office with a note that simply read, "Welcome to the family." The malpractice case that had initially complicated their relationship was settled out of court, removing one obstacle. Rosa's internship at Chandler and Associates concluded with a job offer for after graduation, contingent on her passing the bar exam. By late summer, what had begun as a whispered romance had evolved into an acknowledged relationship, still subject to scrutiny, but no longer hidden. On a perfect August evening, they sat on the rooftop garden of Alex's apartment building, watching the sunset paint the Boston skyline in gold and crimson. "I have news," Rosa said, her expression a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "I've been offered a scholarship for my final year, full tuition." "Rosa, that's incredible," Alex exclaimed. "You deserve it." "It means I won't have to work at the hospital anymore," she continued. "I can focus completely on school, maybe even graduate early." Alex felt a complex surge of emotions, joy for her achievement, relief at the removal of another complication, and a surprising twinge of nostalgia for how they had begun. "We've come a long way from that elevator," he said, thinking of their first encounter. Rosa smiled, interlacing her fingers with his. "I never imagined where that warning would lead us." "Are you happy with where it led?" Alex asked, suddenly needing the reassurance. Rosa considered the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. "The past few months haven't been easy, but when I think about my life before you and my life now," she squeezed his hand. "Yes, I'm happy. Happier than I've ever been." The simple honesty of her answer washed away the lingering doubts that had shadowed Alex throughout the summer's challenges. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. Rosa blinked in surprise. "What?" "Move in with me," he repeated. "Your apartment is tiny and far from campus. You won't have hospital income anymore. It makes practical sense." Rosa raised an eyebrow. "Practical sense? That's your proposal?" Alex laughed, recognizing his clinical approach. "Okay, let me try again. I love waking up next to you. I love coming home to you. I want more of that, all of it, actually. Move in with me because I love you, Rosa Mendez." The words he had felt for months but never articulated hung in the evening air between them. Rosa's smile bloomed slowly, radiantly. "I love you too, Alexander Pierce, and yes, I'll move in with you." Their kiss sealed the decision, a private moment of commitment amid the public cityscape spread before them. Later that night, as Rosa slept beside him, Alex reflected on the extraordinary changes of the past months. He had risked his reputation, endured scrutiny, and reconsidered priorities he had held for decades. And he would do it all again in a heartbeat for the woman who had first caught his attention with a whispered warning, and had since captured his heart with her brilliance, her integrity, and her courage. The path forward would not be without challenges. Rosa still faced her final year of law school and the rigorous bar exam. Alex's position at the hospital remained complex, with lingering questions about his relationship. Their different backgrounds and experiences would continue to create occasional misunderstandings and adjustments. But for the first time in his life, Alexander Pierce was building something more meaningful than a career, more lasting than reputation, more fulfilling than achievement. He was building a partnership, a shared life, a future defined not by individual ambition, but by mutual support, respect, and love. And that, he realized as he drifted toward sleep with Rosa in his arms, was worth every complication. Autumn brought change to Boston and to Alex and Rosa's newly shared life. The penthouse apartment gradually transformed. Rosa's law books joining Alex's medical journals on the shelves, her colorful throw pillows softening his minimalist furniture, family photos appearing on walls that had previously displayed only abstract art. "Your mother called again," Rosa announced one evening as Alex returned from a long surgery. "She's very persistent about that dinner invitation." Alex grimaced, hanging his coat in the closet that now held both their wardrobes. "She's curious about the woman who finally got her son to commit to something besides medicine. And you're avoiding introducing us because my mother is a force of nature who will interrogate you mercilessly and probably start planning our wedding before dessert is served." Rosa laughed, but her eyes were serious. "Are you embarrassed about me, Alex? About my background?" "God, no," Alex said emphatically, crossing to take her hands. "I'm embarrassed about them, their country club attitudes, their subtle prejudices. I don't want you subjected to that." Rosa squeezed his hands. "I've dealt with worse. Besides, they're your family. They're part of you." Alex sighed in surrender. "Fine, Sunday dinner it is." The Pierce family estate in Brookline was imposing. A colonial mansion set on manicured grounds that spoke of old money and established privilege. As they approached the front door, Rosa felt Alex tense beside her. "Relax," she murmured. "It's dinner, not a deposition." But dinner with Elizabeth Pierce proved more challenging than either had anticipated. Alex's mother was elegant, articulate, and skilled at asking questions that seemed innocent, yet probed for weaknesses. "And your parents, Rosa? What do they do?" Elizabeth inquired over the soup course. "My mother works in housekeeping at a hotel in Dorchester," Rosa replied evenly. "My father passed away when I was 12. "How difficult for you," Elizabeth said with practiced sympathy. "And now you're in law school, such an accomplishment from such humble beginnings." The condescension was subtle but unmistakable. Alex opened his mouth to object, but Rosa placed a calming hand on his arm. "I'm fortunate to have had excellent role models," she said smoothly. "My mother taught me the value of hard work and education, and more recently, I've learned a great deal about courage and integrity from your son." Elizabeth seemed momentarily disarmed by Rosa's composed response. The dinner proceeded with cautious conversation, Elizabeth gradually revealing genuine interest in Rosa's legal studies and career plans. By dessert, the atmosphere had warmed considerably, though Alex remained vigilant for any hint of disapproval from his mother. "You'll come for Thanksgiving, of course," Elizabeth said as they prepared to leave. It wasn't a question. In the car heading back to Boston, Alex released a long breath. "That wasn't as disastrous as I feared." "Your mother was testing me," Rosa observed, "seeing if I would be intimidated or defensive. And you passed with flying colors." Alex's admiration was evident. "You handled difficult people remarkably well." "Useful skill for a future lawyer," Rosa replied with a smile. "And for the girlfriend of a brilliant but occasionally arrogant neurosurgeon." Alex laughed, the tension of the evening dissolving. "Occasionally arrogant. I'm making progress then." As autumn deepened, their relationship settled into a comfortable rhythm. Alex's surgical schedule remained demanding, while Rosa's final year of law school consumed her days and many evenings. They carved out time for each other amid their commitments, breakfast together each morning, late dinners when their schedules aligned, weekends spent alternating between quiet domesticity and exploring Boston's neighborhoods. Then came the letter that disrupted their carefully balanced life. Rosa stood in the kitchen, the official envelope from the Massachusetts Board of Bar Examiners in her hands, her expression unreadable. "What is it?" Alex asked, setting down his coffee. "Character and fitness review," Rosa said quietly. "They're requesting additional information about my employment history and my relationship with you." Alex frowned. "Why would the bar examiners care about us?" "Because of the malpractice case," Rosa explained. "They're concerned about potential conflicts of interest, ethical boundaries." She looked up, worry evident in her eyes. "This could affect my bar admission, Alex." The implications were serious. The character and fitness review was a crucial part of bar admission, evaluating applicants' moral character and professional judgment. Questions about Rosa's relationship with a doctor from a hospital her firm had sued could potentially delay or even prevent her certification to practice law. "We'll handle this," Alex assured her, though uncertainty gnawed at him. "You've done nothing wrong." "Intent doesn't always matter in ethics reviews," Rosa pointed out, her legal training evident in her analysis. "The appearance of impropriety can be enough." In the weeks that followed, Rosa prepared detailed documentation of her recusal from the malpractice case, statements from her supervisors confirming her ethical handling of the situation, and a careful timeline establishing that her relationship with Alex had not compromised her professional judgment. Alex watched her work with a mixture of admiration and guilt. Her career was being scrutinized because of him, because of them. "Maybe I should move out temporarily," Rosa suggested one night as they lay awake, the review weighing heavily on both their minds. "Just until after the bar admission. Create some distance." "No," Alex said firmly. "We're not hiding or apologizing for our relationship. We've done nothing wrong." The hearing before the Character and Fitness Committee was set for December, a small conference room in the Supreme Judicial Court building filled with stern-faced attorneys ready to evaluate Rosa's ethical fitness to join their profession. Alex sat in the back, silent support, as Rosa presented her case with the composure and clarity that had first drawn him to her. She answered challenging questions without defensiveness, acknowledged the unusual circumstances of their relationship while maintaining that professional boundaries had been properly observed. When asked directly about the potential conflict between her personal relationship and professional obligations, Rosa's response was measured and honest. "I believe in the integrity of our legal system and my role within it," she stated. "When I recognized the potential conflict, I immediately disclosed it to my supervisors and removed myself from the case. I understand that our profession requires us to maintain not just actual propriety, but the appearance of it. That's why I'm here today, because I take these obligations seriously." Datum. The committee deliberated for an agonizing week before issuing their decision. Rosa would be permitted to sit for the bar exam in February, with her final certification contingent upon successful completion. "They're still watching me," Rosa said, as they celebrated the qualified victory in their apartment. "One misstep and they could reverse their decision." "Ah, but you cleared the biggest hurdle," Alex reminded her, "and you did it honestly, on your own merits." As winter descended on Boston, bringing snow and holiday decorations, Rosa threw herself into bar exam preparation with characteristic determination. Their apartment became a sea of flashcards, study guides, and legal textbooks. Alex found himself quizzing her on legal principles over breakfast, listening to her rehearse oral arguments while they cooked dinner. Christmas brought a brief respite, a tense but ultimately pleasant dinner with Alex's family, followed by a warm, chaotic celebration with Rosa's mother, cousin Elena, and extended family in their small Dorchester apartment. The contrast between the two worlds they navigated was never more apparent, yet both found unexpected comfort in each environment. New Year's Eve found them on their rooftop, bundled against the cold, watching fireworks illuminate the Boston skyline. "Any resolutions?" Alex asked, his arm wrapped around Rosa's shoulders. She considered the question seriously, as she did most things. "To pass the bar, to start my career with integrity, to keep finding balance between work and us." She turned to face him. "What about you?" Alex had never been one for resolutions, viewing the tradition as arbitrary and largely ineffective, but this year felt different. "To be worthy of you," he said simply, "to remember what matters most." Rosa's eyes softened. "You already are worthy, but I appreciate the sentiment." As they kissed at midnight, snow beginning to fall gently around them, Alex felt a profound sense of rightness, despite all the complications they had weathered, and those still to come. February arrived with bitter cold and the looming bar exam. Rosa grew increasingly tense as the test approached, her usual confidence giving way to anxiety dreams and moments of doubt. "What if I fail?" she asked one night, sitting cross-legged on their bed surrounded by review materials. "What if all this was for nothing?" "Then you take it again," Alex said practically. "But you won't fail, Rosa. You're the most capable person I know." The week of the exam, Alex rearranged his surgical schedule to be home in the evenings, providing quiet support as Rosa made final preparations. He stocked the refrigerator with her favorite foods, managed household tasks without being asked, and learned when to offer encouragement and when to simply let her work. On the morning of the first exam day, he drove her to the test center, squeezing her hand before she walked into the building with hundreds of other nervous candidates. "You've got this," he told her simply. "I love you," she replied, drawing strength from his certainty. The 2 days of testing were a marathon of legal analysis, writing, and multiple-choice questions. Each evening, Rosa returned exhausted but cautiously optimistic about her performance. When it was finally over, they celebrated with a quiet dinner at home, rather than the elaborate restaurant outing Alex had suggested. "I just want to be here with you," Rosa explained. "No pressure, no performance, no proving anything to anyone." "Doom." As they sat together on the couch afterward, Rosa's head resting on his shoulder, Alex realized how far they had come from their first meeting in the hospital elevator. The ambitious surgeon, focused solely on advancement, had been transformed by love for a woman who valued integrity above all else. The determined law student who had once kept her head down now stood confidently in multiple worlds, challenging assumptions and breaking barriers. "Whatever happens with the bar results," Alex said quietly, "I'm proud of you and selfishly grateful that you whispered that warning to me that day." Rosa smiled, the stress of the exam beginning to fade. "Best professional ethics violation of my life." They laughed together, the sound filling the apartment that had become their shared home, a space where differences in background, education, and status dissolved in the face of mutual respect, understanding, and love. The bar results wouldn't come for months. Rosa's career was still taking shape. Alex's position at the hospital continued to require navigation of complex politics and perceptions. Their relationship would face future tests from family expectations, career demands, and societal assumptions. But in that moment, warm in their home while winter raged outside, they had everything they truly needed: each other, hard-won wisdom about what mattered most, and the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together. The email arrived on a bright May morning, its official subject line causing Rosa's breath to catch. Alex, pouring coffee in their kitchen, noticed her sudden stillness. "Is that—" Rosa nodded, unable to speak as she opened the message on her phone. Her eyes scanned the text, filling with tears. "I passed," she whispered. Then louder, "I passed." Alex's face broke into a wide smile as he set down the coffee pot and wrapped her in a tight embrace, lifting her off her feet in celebration. "I never doubted you for a second," he said, kissing her soundly. The Massachusetts bar results marked the culmination of years of sacrifice and determination. Night classes after long work shifts, study sessions squeezed between hospital cleaning duties, the constant juggling of obligations and ambitions. Rosa Mendez, daughter of immigrants, former hospital cleaner, was now officially an attorney. Chandler and Associates honored their promise, offering Rosa an associate position in their healthcare litigation department. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. She would be representing patients against hospitals and doctors, potentially including Boston Memorial. "Are you sure you're comfortable with this?" Rosa asked as they discussed her job offer over dinner. "It could get complicated." Alex considered the question seriously. "There will always be tension between our professional worlds, but I trust you, and I believe in what you'll be doing, holding healthcare providers accountable, advocating for patients." Rosa reached across the table to take his hand. "Thank you for understanding." "Besides," Alex added with a small smile, "having an inside perspective on medical malpractice law might make me an even better doctor. More careful documentation, for one thing." The summer brought transitions for both of them. Rosa began her legal career, quickly establishing herself as a detail-oriented, compassionate advocate who understood both the medical and legal aspects of her cases. Alex continued his neurosurgical practice, but with subtle changes. More time dedicated to teaching residents, greater emphasis on patient communication, less focus on hospital politics. Their relationship, tested by external pressures and professional complications, had emerged stronger, more certain. They had learned to navigate their different worlds with grace and humor, finding balance between ambition and connection. On a perfect August evening, exactly 1 year after Rosa had moved into his apartment, Alex suggested a walk along the Charles River. The setting sun painted the water gold and crimson as they strolled hand in hand, comfortable in the rhythm they had established together. "Do you remember that first night at Bluebird Cafe?" Alex asked as they paused to watch a rowing team glide past. "When you asked why I became a doctor?" Rosa nodded. "You told me about your father. That was the first time I'd spoken about him in years." Alex admitted. The first time I'd been honest about my motivations with anyone, including myself. They continued walking, the city skyline beginning to twinkle with lights against the darkening sky. You changed me, Rosa, Alex said quietly. You reminded me of the doctor, the person I wanted to be. We changed each other, Rosa corrected gently. You gave me confidence to stand up, speak out, take risks I might never have taken. Alex stopped walking, turning to face her. I've been thinking about risk-taking, he said, his expression suddenly serious, about leaps of faith. Before Rosa could respond, he dropped to one knee on the riverside path, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Rosa Mendez, he said, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. You whispered a warning to me once that changed the course of my life. Now I'm asking if you'll share that life with me, completely and officially. Will you marry me? Rosa's hands flew to her mouth, tears springing to her eyes as Alex opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. Yes, she whispered, then louder, with the certainty that characterized her most important decisions. Yes, absolutely yes. Alex slid the ring onto her finger before standing to kiss her, oblivious to the joggers and cyclists passing by, some smiling at the familiar scene of love affirmed against the backdrop of their city. The news of their engagement spread quickly through their respective workplaces. At Boston Memorial, reactions ranged from genuine congratulations to lingering skepticism about their unlikely pairing. At Chandler and Associates, Rosa's colleagues expressed varying degrees of surprise that she was marrying a doctor from the other side. But for every doubt or raised eyebrow, there were moments of genuine support and celebration. Dr. Chen insisted on hosting an engagement party for the hospital staff. Rosa's law school friends organized a raucous celebration at their favorite bar. Gloria from housekeeping tearfully hugged Rosa when she returned to the hospital to share her news. Most meaningful was the dinner, where their families met for the first time. Rosa's mother, Maria, initially intimidated by Elizabeth Pierce's wealth and status, soon finding common ground in their shared experiences as single mothers who had sacrificed for their children's futures. Your mother is remarkable, Elizabeth told Alex afterward, surprising him with her sincerity. Rosa comes by her strength honestly. Wedding planning revealed the lingering differences in their backgrounds and expectations. Alex's mother envisioned a grand society wedding at the Boston Harbor Hotel. Rosa preferred something smaller, more intimate, reflective of both their cultures and values. It's not about the wedding, Rosa reminded Alex during one particularly tense planning discussion. It's about the marriage. They compromised on a ceremony at a historic Boston church, followed by a reception that blended elegance with warmth. String quartets playing alongside a Latin band, gourmet cuisine alongside traditional Puerto Rican dishes prepared by Rosa's family. The evening before their wedding, they escaped the chaos of family arrivals and last-minute details to return to where it had begun. Bluebird Cafe, now their special place, the site of countless conversations that had shaped their relationship. Nervous? Rosa asked as they settled at their usual corner table, now marked with a small plaque declaring it reserved for Dr. Pierce and Attorney Mendez. About marrying you? Not for a second, Alex replied honestly. About dancing in front of 200 people tomorrow? Absolutely terrified. Rosa laughed, the sound still his favorite in the world. Just follow my lead, like always. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect. Rosa, radiant in a gown that managed to be both elegant and unpretentious, walked down the aisle on her cousin Eleanor's arm. Alex waited at the altar, his characteristic confidence momentarily overcome by emotion at the sight of his bride. Their vows, written by each of them, spoke of unlikely beginnings, of barriers overcome, of the courage to choose love over convenience or convention. There wasn't a dry eye in the church when Rosa, in a voice steady and sure, promised to continue whispering truths when Alex needed to hear them. The reception was everything they had hoped. a genuine celebration that honored both their worlds while creating something new at the intersection. Alex's surgical colleagues danced with Rosa's law school friends. Hospital administrators mingled with members of Rosa's community. Elizabeth Pierce and Maria Mendez sat together, watching their children with shared pride. As the evening drew to a close, Alex led Rosa to the center of the dance floor for a final dance. The band played softly as he held her close, still marveling at the journey that had brought them to this moment. "Happy?" he asked simply. Rosa looked up at him, her eyes reflecting all the intelligence, determination, and love that had captivated him from the beginning. "More than I ever imagined possible," she replied. Over the DJ's microphone, the band leader announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a final toast to Dr. and Mrs. Pierce Mendez." Glasses raised around the room as friends and family celebrated not just a wedding, but a union that represented possibility. The possibility that differences in background, education, or status need not define or limit love. That unexpected beginnings could lead to extraordinary journeys. That a whispered warning in a hospital elevator could change not just a contract signing, but the course of two lives forever. Alex and Rosa Pierce Mendez moved through the crowd of well-wishers, their hands linked, their futures intertwined. Different worlds now harmoniously united, a new story just beginning.